First of all, you have to tell me about your hat. I don't.
My hat. So I lived in Yerevan in Armenia
Ah,
for 7 months a few years ago. So hat is one of my souvenirs. Also, I've gone bald and I haven't yet come to terms with the fact that I've lost my hair. So
oh,
most often you'll find me in a hat.
because it's a great hat. I
Thank
don't
you.
think I saw it last time we spoke. I would have commented on it. I have a lot
No,
of.
I have a
Yeah. What?
series of them.
Yeah. So, how long have you been trying to avoid the fact that you've lost your hair?
Oh, I know it's been a good 10, 15 years now.
Oh, okay. So you're not planning to really adjust to it. If you've
No,
been using various hats for cover for 15 years, you're not waiting for the right moment.
no, it's just that. I think it comes down to the fact that baldness afflicts many men, but
Yeah.
it is also associated with a lot of negative groups and types of people in the world. You know, like the neo-Nazis and
Yeah.
thugs who are always bald and shaved head, and so it's just another sign of getting old. And
Well, it's
lucky
good
like
to.
you to still have your hair.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry Seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about
Yes.
your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hirsch Redfin.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world
Yes.
or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast. Yes.
I'd love to talk a little bit about the hospitality industry. I'd love to talk about Avallen Solutions, Avallen Spirits, and then the Healthy Hospo brand. There's a lot of good branding to talk about. The Armenia hat is pretty awesome branding, but it's not pertinent necessarily to your story. But tell us where you're. Well, first of all, I should tell the audience your name.
Who I am?
Tim Etherington-Judge is and I don't know many Etherington judges.
No, me neither. As far as I
You
know, I'm the
know,
only one. There's a few
Tim
Etheringtons around.
Etherington-Judge. Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of judges. There's a guy in the UK who, and I really hope he did this for just for fun. So he's a high court judge, very senior high court judge, but his surname is also Judge.
Yeah. So they
So
call
he's
him Justice Judge or
Judge
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 Judge. Judge
Judge
Judge.
over here. Yeah,
Well, there's Mike Judge,
there is
created Idiocracy, which was not even prophetic. It was mildly an underestimation of what the
going
world
on
might
right now.
what the world might become. Well,
Mhm.
so tell the audience where you are situated right now.
So I'm situated in Cornwall, which is a part of the UK. It's about as close as I can get to you without getting wet
Yeah,
and still be in the UK. So it's the extreme southwest. So if you look at a map of the UK, it's like the little toe bit that sticks out at the bottom.
right. And you could almost jump to where's the nearest piece of land that you would jump onto that wouldn't be the UK.
You could go south in down to France.
Yeah.
So you get to like Brittany or Normandy, Brittany, and France. Or if you go north, you get to Ireland.
Yeah.
So we have a patron saint in Cornwall called St. Piran, and the legend goes that he floated over from Ireland on a giant lily leaf,
Mm-hmm. I'm
and
sure
then
it felt
became
like that.
just. I'm not going to take a boat. I'm just going to take this giant leaf.
I'm sure it felt like that. He was like, if I have one more shot, I'm going to just float over. I'm going to float away on a lily leaf. And they were like, oh, for God's sake.
Just get
For
rid of him.
God's sake, make him a saint.
Exactly.
But so how did you get situated there?
I grew up down here. It's where I'm from.
So now, because you've done a lot of things, you've worked in the hospitality industry, you bartended, you've built businesses, you were a runner. In this instance, I don't always do this, but I'm kind of interested in the trajectory of your life growing up in a relatively small community and how you were shaped by that and then decided to go off and do certain things.
So Cornwall two things really shaped me in Cornwall. First is it's a very tourism driven part of the UK. So we jokingly call it the California of the UK because we've got golden sand beaches, surfers, palm trees, everyone's smoking weed.
Sounds good so far.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. So yeah, growing up, the first jobs you get are always in hospitality. So for me, it was at 14 years old, started working in a coffee shop, and 16 was flipping burgers, and at 18 started working in a pub, collecting glasses. And they're the only jobs when you're young, so you just fall into it. And I kind of fell in love with it. I enjoyed the vibe, the buzz of working in hospitality. Enjoy working with people and helping everyone have a good time. And then the other part of Cornwall, it's an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's a little peninsula, so it's the most westerly and the most southerly point of the UK. And extremely beautiful. So kind of growing up down here and just being blessed with this incredible nature and natural beauty, kind of really fell in love with that. The protection of the environment and nature. So sustainability became a real passion for me, which kind of got put away for a while, but has come back and is very much a kind of driving force in my life.
Yeah. So that transition, Healthy Hospo was the first thing that you created?
So I kind of went off around the world, working in bars, ended up working for Diageo, the world's biggest spirits company. And I was the global brand ambassador for Bullet whiskey.
Right, yeah.
So spent a lot of time in Kentucky and traveling around the US. And then left. So I had a breakdown in 2019. No, not 2016, sorry. 2016. So I was, had one of these jobs that everyone thinks is amazing as a global ambassador flying around the world. I was away for like 250 days of the year, 100 plus flights.
You're a spirits ambassador, essentially, which is not to be underestimated in terms of the toll it can take, huh?
Absolutely, yes. When you're doing it globally, you're flicking from continent to continent, country to country. It really does take a toll. And I didn't manage it very well. I'll be the first to admit I wasn't great at that. And so it all kind of came to a head in November 2016 in a hotel room in Athens. And I had a big breakdown and suicide attempt in that hotel room. And it was kind of coming through that whole experience and coming out the other side of it and starting to talk publicly about what had happened on that night. I just got hundreds and hundreds of private messages from people telling me of their struggles and thanking me for talking publicly about it. And then just sharing with me, like some of the people I knew, some were friends, some were kind of peers in the industry, even like complete strangers wrote to me. And I was like, there's something here in our industry that no one is really discussing. If I thought I was alone and I was the only one who was really struggling, and if hundreds of people are reaching out to me, telling me of their problems, there must be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people around the world struggling with something similar. Yet no one was talking about health and well-being in hospitality. It was kind of brushed under the carpet. It's like, we're all having a good time, just have another shot and shut up. We were celebrating bad behavior and we were losing people. I lost a lot of friends for the industry through ill health, through suicide, and I wanted to change the conversation around health and well-being in the industry. And I felt like, a lot of people were saying, just get out. It's not a healthy industry for you. Obviously, kind of all the alcohol, the drugs, the travel, it's not a healthy environment for you. So go and do something else. And I just sat there and thought, well, how can I walk away when I know that there's all these people who are struggling and suffering?
Yeah.
How can I just turn my back on them and go and do something else?
Yeah, I know. And that's a very interesting point to settle on for a minute, which is that getting out of it because was not right for you or was unhealthy for you is one thing, but it wasn't so much about the fit. It was about some real innate issues in the industry that were going to harm other people. If you left, it would be good for you, but it wasn't going to also probably would not give you so much closure coming out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So how did you deal with that?
I mean, I have no background in health and well-being or training, but I know hospitality. So I started blogging about my own personal recovery that I went through. I'm not one to rely on other people to help me. So kind of I got through the phase and got into my recovery, and it was like, right, this is what I'm going to do. Before I even went to see a therapist or my doctor, it was like I already had a plan of how I was going to attack this. And I started writing about that, and people seemed to respond quite well. And then launched a website got some expert advice from actual health and well-being practitioners. And then my expertise is in hospitality. So it was taking their expertise in health and well-being and translating it into something that would work for the hospitality industry. So to give you an example of what that means is I spoke to several sleep coaches because sleep is the foundation of good health. And a lot of the sleep coaches we spoke to were like, you've got to have consistent hours of sleep, go to bed, find out whether you're a morning person or an evening person,
night owl or a
yeah,
early bird.
And then have your consistent bedtime every night. It's just not going to work in hospitality because your rota is constantly changing. There's no consistency in that industry. And then eventually found a sports sleep coach who works with professional athletes and some of the biggest teams in the world, like Manchester United, the British Olympic team, Real Madrid. I think he did some time with the LA Lakers as well. But they have the same like crazy schedules. There's no consistency in their lives as well. So he developed a sleep program for people with very inconsistent schedules. So we worked with him to create a program specifically for hospitality. And so we went from there. Now we have training programs that cover everything from sleep and nutrition through mental fitness, through to kind of time in nature, through to financial health, and trying to just build a very holistic platform around health and well-being, taking a preventative approach.
Right. Which I gather, and you can clarify this for me, Tim, is that Healthy Hospo is the organization that kind of takes a preventative approach and focuses on mental fitness and all of that, whereas the Avallen Spirits brand is more about sustainability.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So at what point did the Avallen brand start to take shape?
So that really started in 2018. We started working on it. It was always something in the back of my mind after I left Diageo in 2016. And I spent a lot of time with Tom Bullitt learning about building a spirits brand and obviously working at Diageo for 7 years. We were the biggest in the business. Really wanted to have a go at doing my own spirit, but wanted to come at it from something that, it had to feel like it had a real purpose to be. I'd seen a lot of people launch brands and you just go like, why the fuck have you, what's the point in this? Like, who is this? Who needs this in their life?
Yeah.
A lot of people going like, oh, I like drinking gin. So I'm going to launch, and gin's doing well. So I'm going to launch a gin brand. Or people going, I see a gap in the market for a mezcal and cognac based, cranberry and pineapple flavored, non-alcoholic, THC infused hard seltzer. And I'm like, I'm not in it for the money, right? I have to have something more than just the chasing the dollar. There's got to be something more in it for me. So we sat down, me and my business partner, and we said, I'm very passionate about sustainability. And I always got frustrated at Diageo of trying to get involved in the sustainability team and being told like, oh, we have people to do that. You go and sit in your brand ambassador box. And then my business partner is from the south of France, from Burgundy. And her father's a winemaker. And so she's very connected to the land. And she always got confused how spirits are very disconnected from the agricultural side. You ask a winemaker about where their vineyards come from, and they can tell you about the pH of the soil, how much worms are in there, the climate, how much rainfall it gets. You ask most whiskey makers about, where does your wheat come from? And they're like, a truck on Thursday. So there was this big disconnect, and we saw a lot of greenwashing in the industry around sustainability. So we said, there's a way to do this, like really authentically, really transparently, and apply, start with a clean sheet of paper and don't go, oh, we like drinking gin, so we're going to make a really sustainable gin, or, let's try and make the world's most sustainable whiskey. It was like, let's put category aside. And category is how most people start.
Yeah.
They go, I want to make a whiskey, I want to make a vodka, I want to make a tequila. Or celebrities go like, how much money can I make from this? So let's do that.
Right. Did you have some intention about whether it would be non-alcoholic, alcoholic?
Yeah, it was always going to be alcoholic because that's really what we knew. And back in 2018, when we started, the non-alcoholic industry was still, it's still very nascent, but it was very much in its very, very early stages.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be alcoholic. And we said, right, if we're going to do this properly, let's go right back to the start. And all alcohol starts its life in a field. There's a vineyard, a sugarcane plantation, an apple orchard, a cornfield. So we said, right, let's try and find out what's the best ingredient to make alcohol from an environmental perspective. And that's where we're going to start. And that becomes our kind of the beginning of our storytelling.
Right.
Because everyone else comes it from the other way. They come at like, we're going to make a whiskey, and now let's try and make a really sustainable whiskey.
Right, right. And they're kind of reverse engineering it or failing to reverse engineer it. But they're, you started with the impact of the agricultural inputs. And what did you find?
Apples. The apples of Normandy in France. We kind of did some research around and across 4 metrics of carbon emissions, water use, biodiversity, and pesticide and fertilizers. And the research that we did, which has recently been backed up by some academic research, the apples of Normandy came out on top of every single category.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's already a category of brandy that's made in Normandy, which is Calvados. So we just sat there and went, oh, fuck, we're going to make ourselves a Calvados now. It's a very old-fashioned category of spirits that has fallen victim to terrible branding and arrogant old French owners who think that they know how to sell stuff and haven't really moved with the times.
So, Tim, that's a category or a brand, or how did
category.
you...
So Calvados is like tequila, Calvados.
Okay.
It's like tequila or cognac. It's most similar to cognac.
Okay.
Like a region in France, and it makes a very specific type of apple brandy.
Right. Okay. So that was going to be your focus, but there was some competition, although it was a little bit on the stuffy side.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, the spirits industry went through a big consolidation piece.
Yeah.
So the big players dropped a lot of their kind of regional spirits in pursuit of putting all of their eggs into the gin and scotch baskets. So
backtrack a little. I want to know about how you shaped this Avallen brand. I love the origin story and where it led you. And that's kind of where I think we were, the category and the product.
So for us, it was, building the brand in the drinks industry. It's all about storytelling. It's different to other industries where you can promote your brand based on technical issues, like with cars,
right?
Or with technology,
performance.
Yeah, like this car has more horsepower than this car, or my phone has a bigger screen and a better CPU than yours, and that's how you advertise. And in spirits, it's all about storytelling. And as a new to world brand with no history and heritage and no physical distillery, because we were contract distilled, the storytelling then became very much around sustainability. Telling the story of every decision we make in the company is around in service of that storytelling of sustainability, which gives you a hell of a lot of stories to be able to tell, sometimes too many, right? And you've got we could talk about so much of the stuff that we've done around sustainability, like who we bank with and who we, all the seed paper we use to print all of our materials, and the fact that our websites are hosted on carbon neutral servers. And so it's but there was almost too much noise. You have to kind of pick through
not everything that you're doing is meant for the public or the customer to know, but at the same time, that is the difference between a purpose-driven brand and a brand that has a mission or has a saying, we're going to give 20% of our proceeds to this cause or something. It doesn't have to change everything we do, from paper to communications to materials that we use. So in your case, you were responding in part to the kind of greenwashing that goes on. And if you're going to be put off by that, you have to really make the concerted effort to not do the same thing yourself. And
the way that we looked at it was to not only to kind of avoid claims of greenwashing, but to build a company that we were very proud of, was tell the story in a very easily accessible way for everybody. But within that, plant all of the other details within there. So if you go on the website, you can just read through the website, but there's so many clickable links in. You can click on that and you can go through and see our full life cycle analysis that breaks down the carbon and water footprint of every single product we make. You can click on another link and it will take you to invoices for all of our charitable donations. You can click another link and it will take you to other parts. So within there you put all the detail, so people want to click through, because there are some people that will want that level of detail and information, and there are other people that just want to come along and like, oh, I like the taste of apples, I'll buy it. So, and you can then avoid all of those kind of accusations of greenwashing, because you're like, well, we published everything. And some people might come along get into the brand because we're a certified B Corp and they really like that. Other people might come into it because they like bees and we donate money to the bees. So we try and create a number of avenues into the brand and then be as transparent as possible is what we say.
Well, when you think about that, what would you say at this point? Well, when did you launch the Avallen Spirits brand?
We launched in May 20th, 2019. So the World Bee Day.
Yeah. So who would you say is the Avallen drinker?
That's a really good question. I don't think we ever really identified like a single group of people. And I'm very hesitant to use traditional demographic. You know, an Avallen drinker is between 30 and 35, drives an electric car. And for us, it was much more about attitude. People that like good drinks, are curious, care about the planet, go out to bars and restaurants, have a good time. You know, there's conscious consumers, that I guess that's the phrase that people like to use. But it could be someone that is like in their young 20s. We have a lot of older people. Also because we're a Calvados and it's a category of spirits that young people may not necessarily know, but the older generations are more likely to know. So we took a more of an approach to it of like, what are the people that drink Avallen really interested in?
Yeah.
You know, and then we've also found that bartenders play a huge role in Avallen's success, because bartenders know a lot about alcohol, obviously. Calvados is a category that they already love, but is really underrepresented in the industry. So we will come along with a Calvados and they go, oh, that's great, because not many people ever come in with a Calvados. We really love it, and it's really sustainable as well. We really like the packaging and the branding. It looks really cool on the back bar. And it also gives the bartenders another story to tell. You know, they're almost your second tier of salespeople.
Yeah.
The part of the branding is giving them little bits of story that they can then tell to their guests that come into the bar.
Yeah. And how did you go about pricing it? Was it influenced by the fact that there are so many considerations that need to be made in terms of sustainability? That is it a more expensive spirit to produce?
The liquid is more expensive than your average whiskeys of a similar age. So our approach was the liquid is the bit that you consume and you drink. So that's where the most of the money should go. So we're going to have a really cheap bottle. Cheap's the wrong word, but we're not going to invest in like a fancy, expensive bottle. We're going to go for an off-the-shelf bottle that's a value bottle. And we're going to invest the time and effort into good design. So beautiful labels, beautiful packaging, beautiful brand world, but not necessarily fancy, exquisite bottles that cost a lot of money. So we have a very value-driven piece of packaging, but with an expensive liquid. Because that, for me, is the way it should be, right? Because you don't consume the bottle. It's just the bit that you look at and then put in the recycling.
Right.
Why do I want a cheap liquid in an expensive bottle? Then it just becomes a trinket.
Right. And then comes the question, well, okay, so you're investing in the liquid. How does the brand reach its audience and resonate with them? How do you calibrate that messaging?
So in our industry, there's two channels. You got the on-trade or on-premise, which are the bars, restaurants, hotels, nightclubs, etc. And then you have off-premise, which is the retail side of things and e-commerce. So as a new to world brand with not a lot of money, no celebrity backing, the traditional route is in through the on-trade. So you go work with the bartenders, bar managers, do a lot of advocacy with them, trainings, because they will buy the brand, they will use it in cocktails. The goal is to get a cocktail on the cocktail menu with your brand name listed, because then you're also it's also drives sales as well. Right? So you're getting brand mentions, so guests are coming to the bar, they're seeing the brand name on the bar. The bartender might recommend it if they really like the product. You know, hundreds of products on their back bars often. So you've got to have a really compelling story and a real compelling reason for the bartender to promote your product.
So is that, Tim, ultimately kind of a collaboration between the mixologist, let's say, and the brand, where they say, yeah, let's work together let's see if we can come up with a great signature drink or a great menu item. And then
Yeah,
you're,
it's very much relationship building. When I worked at Bullet, Tom Bullet always told me we're not in the drinks business, we're in the relationships business. And especially when you're a small brand with limited budgets, because it is a pay to play game. You know, the big boys like Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Bacardi will come in and they will give the bars money, and they go like, right, we'll give you this much money to be your pouring vodka, give you this much money to be your pouring gin. The bartender's not choosing their favorites. They're choosing which gets them the most money.
Yeah.
As a small Calvados brand with very limited budgets, I mean, thankfully, there's no one has Calvados contracts, so we don't have to pay to be on the menus. But we have to play the game of building relationships, making bartenders like us as people. I'm going to pour this because I like the founders and I've met the founders and I know them. So it can be quite a strong pull for some people.
Yeah. So now, if you look at the ambassador roles and the culture around that as an owner versus an employee, how is the game different now for you?
I think I still play it as just as hard as I did before. I think personally for me now, I'm much better with my drinking.
Yeah.
I think now I have especially as it's my own brand now, I have the confidence to say no.
Yeah.
To shots and no to drinking, whereas before I never had that confidence. You know, if someone offered me a shot, I would always end up taking it.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, no, I don't need a shot of something of my brand. I don't need a shot of Avallen as I'm leaving your bar.
Yeah.
I know what it tastes like. I don't need it.
Yeah.
So I think and I'm much more aware now of, you know, my health. So I'm very disciplined on my fitness, my sleep. So that's good. You know, and I can see the signs in other people now because I've been there. And as an owner, thankfully we don't have any employees at the moment. So it's just me and Stephanie. And then we work with kind of some contractors at times. But there's never an expectation to drink. There's never, if you want to leave, you know, if we're out with contractors doing some work, you know, if they reach a point at the night where they want to go home, there's no expectation to stay. I think when I was at Diageo, I always felt the expectation that I had to be there right to the end.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressing someone if I wasn't kind of committed to being in the last group to go home at like 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I relate to that. There's a certain degree of commitment. It's the opposite of commitment phobia. It's overcommitment beyond the call of duty, beyond what is really necessary. But you have like almost a FOMO effect where you feel like you're missing out on something that you were supposed to accomplish. And it takes a long time to realize that nothing important happens after a certain point.
Exactly.
Certainly nothing good. Certainly nothing good.
No, but sometimes there's fun times after that period, but they should be kept seldom because then they remain fun times. When they become, you know, when you're out all the time, you lose the fun of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, in your case, you know, you have this whole picture of the Healthy Hospo response to the culture that you had found yourself in, the Avallen Spirits kind of progression of doing your own brand, but doing it your way with the considerations and values that you felt were important, sustainability and so forth, and then the corporate responsibility. And then there's also now wildlife luxuries, which we haven't talked about, which, because I always look at it like what is the whole picture of an entrepreneur, of a person? It's not going to be, even if they have one brand, let's say, that there is really well known or takes off or becomes that's not the whole picture of them. That's not their personal brand, as I call it. So tell us about wildlife luxuries in India.
So wildlife luxuries came about. It wasn't something I sought out. It was an opportunity that came my way, and I just had to say yes. So I lived in India for 3 years, which was 3 incredible years. It's an amazing country, and I really fell in love with India during my time out there. And I had the opportunity to work with a very famous Indian chef called Aminder Sadhu. And we opened a restaurant together when I was out there. And then she approached me a couple of years ago and said, I've got this opportunity to go and work on this project, and I think you'd really love it and be really interested. Do you want to get involved in it with me? So Wildlife Luxury is a company that does exactly what it says on the tin. Luxurious wildlife experiences in India.
Yeah.
So we currently have one property called Tipai, which is Tipai, which is a very small safari, not a lodge, a safari resort in the middle of India. So it's about 2.5 hours south of Nagpur on the edge of the Tipeshwar Tiger Reserve. So Tipeshwar is one of the smaller tiger reserves in India and definitely one of the least well known. You go to some of the really big ones and you kind of go out there and you know, if you spot a tiger, you're like, oh, tiger. And then you look around and there's like 50 other 4x4s right next to you. And like hundreds of people all around the tiger. You're like, oh, look at me having my nature experience with all these like 50 other trucks next to me. And also the resorts there can be very shielded from nature. So big walls around them to make sure the tigers don't come in. And Tipai is the antithesis of that. It's built in the middle of an old teak forest and there's no borders to nature. So you'll go there and you're in the middle of the wildlife. You know, not regularly, but we've had tigers on the property before. There's a huge focus on sustainability. That's one of my roles there, is to focus on that. So it's completely off grid. So we generate all of our own electricity, collect all of our own water. We employ about 80% of the employees are from the local village because it's in a very, very rural area. So 80% of the staff from the local village, they all get paid well above the local wage. And then we give them a kind of really great opportunities to upskill, to train, and to have amazing life experiences. And one of my favorite stories is we have an outdoor restaurant there called Palash, which is named after one of the local flowers. And it's an all-female team that run it. And so all of the cooks and the chefs come from the local village. And the furthest that they've ever been is like the nearest big town. But now they're working with one of India's most famous chefs who's traveled the world.
Wow.
And so we took them to, in Rajasthan, which is one of the old, really beautiful parts of India. And there's a lot of like very luxurious 5-star hotels there. So we took them to the Leela Palace and they did a restaurant takeover of one of the restaurants at the Leela Palace. So the first time they'd ever been on a plane, first time they'd ever been to Jaipur, the first time they'd ever stayed in a hotel, and they stay in one of India's most luxurious hotels, all fully paid for by that hotel. And now we're trying to get them all passports and do the same in London. So they're all going to come to London, bring their cooking skills and take over a restaurant for a few days.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And again, Tim, it fits in, it all fits into the picture. So the only question I can ask at that point is, what's next on the agenda? What's the next, mountain or hill?
So at the moment it's Avallen Solutions. One of the learnings from Avallen Spirits was, the goal was to create the most sustainable spirits brand in the world and really create a beacon of sustainability that other brands can look to. And I think we achieved that to some extent. We're widely recognized and awarded as the most sustainable spirits brand. But I always, the old saying that there's no point being the last tree in the forest.
Yeah.
And realizing that if we're going to be true to a mission of sustainability, it can't just be about us. We've got to help the entire industry forward on this. So Avallen Solutions is an advisory service that we set up for the spirits industry. For the drinks industry, to help businesses, and specifically small to medium-sized businesses, on their sustainability journey. Those businesses that may not have a dedicated sustainability resource in their team. They might have no one at all, or it might be like, oh, you work in marketing, you can do the sustainability stuff, can't you? So common in so many smaller businesses. So creating an advisory service to help those companies on their journey.
Yeah.
And trying to, that bigger picture of like, right, we've created Avallen Spirits now, and we're still very committed to making sure that's a success. But we've also got to help the wider industry come on this journey, because otherwise everyone is screwed. Climate change is going to come for all drinks brands, because all of our products start their life as an agricultural product, and there's nothing that's more at risk from climate change than agriculture.
Yeah. And, that's a great place to end up in this conversation, because this season has kind of been all about, with different guests from different businesses and brands, but always with the sense that the world exists beyond ourselves. The world is a bigger and more complex place than any of us really perceive. And if in our corner of the world or our endeavors, we can make a positive impact, then we can start to figure out how this world can click together. And I think you've covered mental health and business, work, life, sustainability, caring about the planet, the experiences for people that are not exploitative, experiences that people can have in their work and in their recreational experiences that really are helping to, in some way, make the world a better place. And that phrase may sound a little stereotypical or hackneyed, but making the world a better place is really the most important thing you can do.
Absolutely. I think especially now when the people in power are actively trying to make it a worse place. So we've got to fight even harder. For me, it's like the quote that really drives my life is what the famous Mahatma Gandhi quote of "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And I wish to see a world that is kinder, that's cleaner, greener, more sustainable, and fairer for everybody. Which I think is the antithesis of what the ultra wealthy and the right wing seem to want.
Well,
so we have to fight harder and
yeah, I think what we see is it's simple to me now in that I realize I guess it's just easier sometimes to take things down and destroy things and do damage than it is to build. And building doesn't require demolition. Building, why I called the show Yes Brand is the yes and rule of improv. You always add to the suggestions that your scene partners are giving you. That builds on the comedy in the case of the yes and rule. But in the case of the world, it's this, there's always add to it. You don't have to tear down what someone else does in order to be noticed. Oh, they're the destroyer. They're the one who's so bad, so badass that they can do whatever they want and nobody can stop them. And this is not one person or people or group or country. There's plenty of this kind of dark, negative input concept throughout the world and throughout history. It's part of our human makeup, this destructive tendency.
I don't think it's the defining one. There's a lot of people saying like, it's human nature to be destructive. But it's the opposite is true. We are the most sociable species on the planet. The reason that we are so successful is because of our ability and desire to work for the common good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for coming on the show. Is there, first of all, we'll have everything in show notes, but if you want to let the audience know where they can find you for your respective endeavors, where can they get a hold of you?
A lot easily online. So you've got healthyhospo.com, avallenspirits.com, avallen.solutions, wildlifeluxuries.com. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Ginger Bitters is my kind of handle on there.
Ginger Bitters. You have a way with, there are some really great names. You have a way with names. I like it. Ginger Bitters sounds like a great band.
I thought about that. It was from my bartending days. So bitters are kind of your flavoring ingredient, like your salt and pepper for the bar worlds.
Yeah.
And I'm a red-headed stepchild, so Ginger Bitters made sense.
All right.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, then
subscribe and leave a
yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yeah. Huh?